Paperback Rocker, episode 73. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9-foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome and thanks for checking out my show.
Take a drink of the Paperback Rocker's new book, Blue Whiskey.
Hey everybody, what's up? It is I, the Paperback Rocker, Matt Severson, back again with episode 73 of the Paperback Rocker podcast. Thanks for being with me again, as always. Drop me a line. My email is paperbackrocker@live.com. Let me know what you think of the book. When last we read, our hero, Stanton Cuthbert Wheelhouse III, had been on his quest to Greenwich Village, stopped in a small town of Stringtown, Alabama, where he ate soul food for the first time and met a recurring character in my novels, the man with the gold tooth, the black man with the gold tooth, Otis. He is in multiple novels of mine, so you have to read all of them. And when last we read, they had just they went into a park. Stanton had been almost robbed and saved by Otis, and then they'd gone into a park, and they were just getting ready to fall asleep. And that's where we are now. When we finished the Sixer, we laid, and they were drinking beer, sitting on a park bench. And then they went and slept in the panel van. When we finished the Sixer, we laid in the back of the van with the windows open and told each other our plans. It was my intention to roll up the windows before we went to sleep, but I passed out before doing so. The long drive and the excitement and my full belly and the beer had this traveler as tired as I'd ever been. The next morning I woke and felt very rested. I had fallen asleep many hours before I usually retired in New Orleans. I rolled over, but Otis was gone. I got out and didn't see him, so I yelled his name but got no response. I looked at the sun and figured it was 9 or 10. I was concerned about Otis after the incident with the knuckleheads the night before, so I rushed to the driver's seat and set off for the soul food shack. Memories of the son of Faulkner on the gurney swirled in my head. The speed limit in the park was 10 miles per hour, and it took what seemed forever to find my way out. Then I was turned around, since Otis had guided me to the park in the dark. Finally, I found the little shack. A line of 12 or 15 people waited to enter, and to my great surprise, none of them was white. I rushed by them, and from what I picked up as I raced past, they didn't like my hunky ass cutting in line. I opened the door and screamed, "Otis!" I saw him 2 tables away, setting down plates of food in front of 2 customers. "Why, Mr. Stanton, I didn't expect to see you again. Welcome back." I rushed up to him and said, "I thought they got you, Otis." I was out of breath. "Who?" "The knuckleheads." Otis smiled and shook his head like it was the most foolish thing he'd ever heard. "You should know better than that. I had to be here at 6 this morning. We real busy on Sunday morning breakfast time, and Mama got no patience for stragglers." "Thank God," I said. "Go in the kitchen before you starts a riot." I looked around for the first time and saw looks both annoyed and bewildered. "Sorry, everyone," I said. "My mistake." Most of them laughed at the stupid honky, and I made my way sheepishly to the kitchen door with its employees only sign and entered. "The honky's back," said a teenage girl when she saw me. "Hush your mouth," said a matronly lady wearing an apron with flour all over it. Mama. She was large, but I detected she could move around the kitchen like a ballerina on a stage. "Sorry, Mr. Stanton. I'm Otis's mama. You know you welcome here. Otis done told me all about you." I smiled. The girl who had called me honky shuffled over to another girl about her age, and I heard her whisper, "He cute for a white boy." Otis came into the crowded kitchen. "Mama, dish up something for Mr. Stanton." "Already done, son," she said, turning around with a heaping plate of sole breakfast, which she handed to me. You be hitting the road with a full tank," Otis said with a laugh. "That's for sure," I said. "I can't thank you folks enough." I stepped toward the door, and Otis slid in front of it. "Eatin' here, Stanton. They's a clear counter spot right over there." He motioned toward a spot on the counter and said, "Get to stepping, you girls." The two teenagers giggled and hustled out the swinging door. I cleaned my plate in 5 minutes. Otis came back in from the dining room and took it and put it in a tub. "Thanks, Mama," he said. "Thanks, Mama," I echoed. "You welcome, son," Mama said. She was talking to me. "Let's go out the back door, Mr. Stanton," said Otis. Behind the little building, Otis said, "Take care of yourself, Mr. Stanton. Stop back by next time you're in Stringtown. Come in the back way and don't cut in line." He laughed his warm laugh. I smiled and extended my right hand. "I'm going to write a song about you." Now that would sure enough be fine. Our eyes locked as we shook hands like old friends. We released our grip, and I turned to walk around the little building. Otis turned and walked in the back door of the soul food joint that had no name. All right, that's the end of chapter 9. Starting in on chapter 10 now, on page 105, we have crossed the 1/3 mark. Chapter 10. I filled up the tank at Stringtown's only gas station before leaving town. As the gas pumped, I gazed around and wondered if anything special would ever happen in this podunk little town. I paid the man $4.34 and pulled to the side of the lot to examine the map before I hit the road. I retrieved it from the glove compartment and unfolded it. It had been the captain's, and it was well used. Ink lines traced highways in patterns like those left behind by worms under tree bark. I saw the route to Lake Michigan with a star drawn at Muskegon. I studied the captain's tracks around the country, forgetting that the engine was idling. Back then, gas was so cheap you could let it idle for hours if you wanted. The pin marks on the map made me rethink my route. I had planned the most direct route to New York City, but I changed my mind right then. "A songwriter in a hurry ain't going to write no songs," I said aloud. "I'm going to Nashville." I had adopted Otis's vocal style, but I was alone, so it was no big deal. It was an homage, really, although I didn't know the word at the time. By today's standards, my imitation of Otis would make me a racist, but I was still in the age of common sense. Plus, I was alone. Does a tree that falls in the forest get called racist if nobody hears it? On the road to Nashville, the radio had poor reception for long stretches, so I entertained myself by having imaginary conversations with Otis. I wasn't mocking my first black friend. I respected him deeply. It's just that every entertainer and artist has an actor inside, and I was discovering mine. I was adding depth to my repertoire, but I wasn't doing any of it in any kind of conscious way. It was brainstorming again. "Mr. Stanton, why you going out of your way? You better get yourself up to New York City, or to New York straight away. You're going to get in trouble with them knuckleheads you don't watch out." "I'm going to check out old Nashville, Otis. I hear tell there's some pretty good old pickers round that a ways." And so on. Don't get me wrong, I didn't carry this imaginary confab on all the way to Nashville. I listened to the radio some, but mostly I sang songs from the Possum's jukebox with the radio off. Reuben had given me a transcribed copy of the perfect playlist for some reason, and I did my best to sing each song from memory. I learned something from doing that. Each song was different from one another, and they were different than anything I would write, but singing them added to my artistic vocabulary, my vocal phrasing. I was exploring my voice and what it could do, creating muscle memories. I sang Reuben's playlist over and over. until I was comfortable enough to add my own harmonies and other subtle changes. Not much, just a melodic turn of phrase here and there to make it my own. They say the number one thing for a writer to be, is a reader. That's what I was doing, only musically. During a quiet period, I thought back to my father and the poetry he read to us some nights after dinner, and made a connection between what I was doing with my exploration of subtlety and nuance in music and what he did with words. I flashed back to the confusion of my immature mind attempting to understand mature themes and saw my father's lips speaking words about ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas, and I understood something, both about ragged claws on the seafloor and my father. The rest of the drive to Nashville was a blur. I was in right brain mode, but I knew nothing about that at the time. Later I would become aware of the concept and discuss it at length with my Greenwich Village cohorts. They all claimed to be left-brained, since they fancied themselves as English major types, dominated by the wordy side of the mind. I coasted into Nashville on fumes, feeling strange. Right off the bat, I got a weird vibe. The town felt different than others I'd been to, kind of the way I felt my first time in Austin, Texas. I saw more than one person walking the sidewalk with a guitar case in hand. I pulled into a station to fill up Wanderlust. The shop was full service only, which was good since the Chevy needed her fluids topped off. The attendant was a fine example of what I meant when I said the place was strange. He was at least 6'5" and sang the whole time as he strolled around Wanderlust with long strides, performing his duties, and I could have sworn he was auditioning for me. His lanky frame made me compare him to Ichabod Crane, and when I saw him in profile, I couldn't believe the size of his Adam's apple. When he finished, he came to my window and said, $6.96. What did you think? About what? My singing. You're in the business, right? Your singing was fine, I said as I handed him a tin. I play guitar, but I'm not really in the business. Want to start a band? Are you serious? I said with a skeptical smile. I just got into town 5 minutes ago. Then you've already met a singer, he said dejectedly. Everybody in this town's a musician, aren't they? I said. Everybody I've seen so far looks like one. You got that right, he said. The name's Hank. He reached a meaty right hand toward me, and I shook it through the rolled-down window. Stanton, I said. Well, as far as your name goes, I'd say Stanton's a good enough one. I mean, if Porter Wagoner can make it, I'm sure Stanton is as good as any. Do you view everything through the prism of making it as a country and western star? I asked. Don't go and get me all depressed, Stanton. I'm already lower than Beelzebub's bunions. I've been here 5 whole days, and I ain't got a band yet. Sorry, Hank. You haven't forgotten my change, have you? Sorry, mister. I'm all out of sorts. I don't know if I'll ever get me a band going. Give it another few hours, I said. Hank smiled and appeared to forget his concerns. I get off in 15 minutes, Stanton. Let's you and me kick these blues in a good old honky-tonk. He still hadn't given me my damn change. What's a honky-tonk? I asked. And you call yourself a country and western musician, he said with disgust. I never said that. Don't lie to me, Stanton. I know you want to start a real country and western band. Pull my other leg. He laughed all yucky. It's not going to work, Hank, but I'll wait over there for you, I said, pointing to a spot under a nearby street light. And don't forget my change. 20 minutes later, Hank bounded into my passenger seat, still in his gas station uniform, and shoved the remainder of the tin spot I'd given him into my hand. He surveyed the interior of my vehicle and spotted my guitar case within seconds. I knew you played. Want to start a band? Haven't we had this conversation? I said. Hank had the personality of a Labrador. He looked confused. You play guitar and I'm a singer. Let's start a band. Listen, Hank, I'm a folk singer. I'm on my way to New York City. I wish you all the best, but I can't form a Nashville band with you tonight. You're a Democrat, ain't you? He said. I laughed. I'm a Democrat until I hit it big, then I'm going to be a Republican. Hank sorted that out in his mind. Good enough for me, he said. Let's hit the honky-tonk. Sounds wonderful, I said, but can we go someplace low-key, somewhere only the real locals go? But we ain't locals. Don't you want to go someplace where everybody is looking to start a band? Absolutely not, I said, mentally placing the image of a talking Irish setter into my passenger seat. And you call yourself a musician? Hank spat out his open window. He was too simple to be mad at. This must be the difference between folk and country, I thought. Okay, I guess I'll stop there. In the middle of our first scene with good old Hank, the country and western singer in search of a band. And we are on page 108 if you're following along in the beautiful hardback, which I doubt you are, but you should consider it. You should consider ordering one from me, and I'll send it to you. Contact me at paperbackrocker@live.com. Hope you're enjoying all this, and I guess I'll be coming at you with another episode here about 3 days from now or so. So have a good one. Until then, thanks for being with me. See ya.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.